Hey there, this is Matt with State of Flux here with a fan-requested ranking video, this time talking about the Disney live-action remakes. Now, this is going to be a pretty comprehensive list. I decided that I was going to rank all 21 of the recent Disney live-action remakes, but there are going to be 3 exclusions on here from all of the remakes. And those 3 exclusions are from the pre-2005 era of Disney live-action remakes, and that is the Kipling Jungle Book from 1995, I want to say, 101 Dalmatians, and 102 Dalmatians, simply because I haven't seen those films, so they will not be on the list. However, we are going to rank them starting with the absolute worst and working our way up to the best of the live-action remakes. Full disclosure, I actually like a good handful of these. I think once you get into the top 10, all of these movies I actually like and do own if they do have physical releases. So, starting with the I can't even throw fingers up for this. The 21st spot is Lady and the Tramp. This movie is just kind of blah, to say the least. I saw it once, and it doesn't capture the spirit or evoke the romance of the original Lady and the Tramp. It is just inferior across all levels, and isn't a particularly good-looking film or showcase of CG. It is just uninspired, to say the least, and not worth your time. In the 20th spot, we have the sequel to Alice in Wonderland, which is Alice Through the Looking Glass, which I was kind of excited for, but pretty let down by. That movie is completely forgettable, and with a movie full of a lot of visual stimulation, the fact that it is forgettable is pretty damn sad. And it's also sad considering I think it was one of the final performances of the great Alan Rickman, but shy of a couple of the female protagonist and or antagonist scenes, the film is something that you can just get a wash of. In the number 19th space, we're going to continue on with this Tim Burton-esque trend. I know he didn't do the sequel, but he certainly did this film, which is Dumbo. Now, the first hour of Dumbo is actually pretty okay. It's a fine update to Dumbo that kind of works. But as the original Dumbo is only 65 minutes, and the only reason to remake it is to excise some of the more racist undertones throughout the film, or overtones, thinking about the crows, it is a movie that then becomes sub 60 minutes. So how do they do it? He makes not only Dumbo, but essentially its sequel, Dumbo 2, in one film. But the problem with that is it has a rise and then fall, and then rise and then fall again. It feels like 2 movies smushed together, and neither of them are particularly interesting. If you want to watch Dumbo, watch the original mean-spirited Dumbo. It's where it's at, and this one has virtually nothing to offer you that's new or special outside of Colin Farrell is always amazing. In the number 16 spot, you know what, let's just keep on that Tim Burton bash train, which is Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland would be an okay and interesting concept if it wasn't taken directly from Hook. It's just Hook, again. And it's not a particularly good version of Hook. Hook was one of the most criticized Spielberg films of its era, and this just kind of does that again, and I guess without the nostalgia goggles that Hook gives me, or the love of Peter Pan that I already harness, Alice in Wonderland is everything that people hurled at that film, and I can say the same about this. It's a needless film, it's kind of mean-spirited, it's just overly ambitious while not being able to capitalize on that ambition or provide anything of interest in doing so, and in providing a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, which it is, it doesn't offer anything outside of a restatement for Alice in Wonderland, to the point where it's like, why didn't you just make Alice in Wonderland as is? Why did you make it both the sequel and remake and reboot and requel, legacy sequel, all this kind of thing, all rolled into one? It's the earliest stages of that direction of filmmaking, and I think it's this, along with Hook, that we have for that trend. And it just doesn't work for me. That said, I do like Hook. Maybe I'll get a review up for that at some point. In the number 17 spot, we have Disney's The Lion King. And I really was excited for that. The trailers were all great. Jon Favreau is a phenomenal filmmaker, and I was really impressed with one of his other films that you will see later on this list. So I was super excited. But when he gave me this movie that looks basically photoreal for The Lion King, but sapping the life out of The Lion King, which was one of my favorite Disney animated films, I was really disappointed. It also had me checking my watch the whole entire time. There was no scene that was made to justify this film's existence. It is just The Lion King again, except worse. And I was not a fan. In the number 16 spot, we have Mulan, which back, if you asked me in 2019 and early 2020 what my most anticipated film of 2020 was, it was Mulan. Those trailers had me incredibly excited, and I was really interested in the idea that they were going to go back to the original mythology and the story of Mulan, to sort of excise it of its more fantasy elements and give you a more grounded take on Mulan. And so I was expecting something along the line of Hero or Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, House of Flying Daggers, that kind of style of film. And sure, that is how they photographed it. But when I got to the film, yeah, they took out the dragon, but they had this really weird scene with a bug early in the movie that just was completely unbelievable, and then all of a sudden there's like a phoenix that's a serpentine villain. Instead of you having this dragon friend, you have a villain that's a phoenix, and I'm just like, what is happening with this? It's really boring as well, which this shouldn't be. Mulan, the original one, is really quite captivating and one of the highlights of that 90s era of Disney. So this film just ended up being a profound disappointment. In the number 15 spot, we have The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Now this one is the one that could go most up and or down on this list because I've seen it only one time. That was over 10 years ago, I think 15 years ago by my counts. It came out in 2010, right? This is taking the short segment from Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, weirdly enough, and elongating it into a feature. It is funny, it has Nicolas Cage, and besides that, I don't remember almost anything about this movie. I remember coming out of it enjoying it, but the fact that it didn't stick with me, besides just that memory of enjoyment, I could not bring it any higher on this list than it currently sits. So, this is where it is. And it probably should switch places with the next one, but I'm just putting that caution there to keep it in the 15 spot. In the 14 spot, I have Pinocchio. Pinocchio is a movie that almost is good, but it doesn't stick the landing. In fact, it doesn't even conclude the film. It just kind of stops in the most perplexing way, as if Robert Zemeckis is just I don't care anymore, and just hit cut and decided not to film anything else. But this movie almost works throughout a good chunk of its beginning, but the fact that another Pinocchio film came out this same year, I think critics were way more harsh on this film than they would have been normally because of that, and that film is undeniably better. But this one has moments in it that I quite like. However, all the arguments thrown at it of it being nostalgia bait with all the wood clocks and stuff like that, or the poor attempts at humor, the Chris Pine joke comes to mind, all of that's true. It's not a good movie, but it's not unenjoyable, and I like how Zemeckis makes his movies, so it it works for me on some elements, so I'm going to keep it here. In the number 13 spot, we have Mufasa, the Lion King. This is much like Godfather 2, which it is inspired by, both a sequel and a prequel, and depending on how you respond to Godfather 2, mileage may vary. I'm not a huge fan of Godfather 2 because it essentially just gives and provides an excuse to do the same movie again, just by putting it in the past, and you can see how history repeats itself. Well, sure, that is true, and you did draw those lines. You're also watching the same movie again a second time, and Mufasa, the Lion King, kind of falls into that position. But similar to Godfather 2, every single scene in this movie is considerably better than in its counterpart, the original, The Lion King. So, the live-action Lion King, let's be clear. So, while that is true, I still came away with it feeling like I've seen this before, the music isn't quite as good, performances are really good, this movie is stunningly gorgeous, and I think that if you really, really like what they did with Godfather 2, you might like this movie a lot more. I like it, but I'm not, like, in love. So that's where we have. In the 12th spot, we have The Little Mermaid. This movie should be much better. It is one of my top 5 favorite animated films, full stop. Some of the additions to this film kind of work, some of them don't. I do think the casting of both the lead Ariel and Melissa McCarthy both are very good, but also both kind of work against the film in various respects. But Halle Berry, right? Or is it Halle Bailey? Halle Bailey, I think that's what it is. She is a lovely actress, and she kills it with those songs. However, her voice doesn't really cater to the songs in this. So, while her voice is just phenomenal, it seems to not mesh with the style of songs. She was in this very same year this movie was released in the remake of The Color Purple, and I thought she deserved an Oscar for that. She is incredible in that movie. Here, she is good, and the movie is good, and I think it's visually stimulating and whatnot, but it's just not quite up to par. It's almost good, but it's just not quite there. In the number 11 spot, we have Maleficent. Sleeping Beauty is an interesting one because it is one of the more problematic, by today's standards, stories of the Disney princesses, and this film tries to circumvent that by not acknowledging Sleeping Beauty and instead just focusing on the villain. And you know what? That's certainly a way to do it. I think for the most part that works. Some parts of the movie really gel for me, including Angelina Jolie, but the movie feels kind of good but half-baked, and I would have liked more. It does have a mostly strong conclusion, so I give this one a pass. In the number 10 spot, all the ones moving forward are movies I firmly recommend. We have Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon, I think, is a better interpretation than the Disney animated version that came before. I think it is good, really well made, well directed, and some strong visuals. The only thing I would say is that this movie has some pacing issues, especially in that midsection, but is worth your time. In the number 9 spot, we have Peter Pan and Wendy. As mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of Peter Pan. It's one of my favorite properties for children's literature, and it's something that I'm quite obsessed with. I really liked this film in how it focuses on Wendy and whatnot, as I've had plenty of versions of Peter Pan, and all of them focus on the Pan of it all. I liked seeing this updated version of Wendy that worked for me, and Mila Jovovich's daughter is quite good in the film. I can't remember her name. Erin Anderson, is that it? She's quite good in the film, and overall I liked it. I think this movie got a lot of complaints when it came out, and I was sitting there saying this should have gone to theaters. It has spectacle, it is well acted, and I love me some Peter Pan. Give me more. In the number 8 spot, I have Maleficent, Mistress of Darkness. I loved this movie back when it came out in 2019. I thought this movie was fantastic. It took the things that I liked and thought worked with Maleficent and incorporated things that I wanted it to have updated from Sleeping Beauty, i.e. giving Elle Fanning something to fucking do. And this movie does. I really like it. It hit me emotionally far more than I expected it to, and I wish it committed to the ending that it sets up rather than the ending we ultimately get. However, I think this is great and really, really good looking as well. Great acting, big fan. In the number 7 spot, we have Cruella. I was a big fan of Cruella. I think that movie deserved several Oscars that it didn't seem to get nominated for, and that disappointed me. But Emma Stone gives one of her finest performances in this movie. The whole visual language of the film and the costumes, the makeup, the hair, all that stuff is extraordinary. And Emma Thompson, oh my god, she also deserved an Oscar nomination for this film. I was a big fan of this movie. It has pumping energy. I loved the music. I loved the score. Everything about it just gelled for me. This was one of my favorite films of 2021 when it first came out, and got me excited to go back to the movies. So this one's pretty high on my list. In the number 6 spot, we have Beauty and the Beast. I really liked Beauty and the Beast. Now, it could be that I don't have quite the same reverence for the original Beauty and the Beast that a lot of people do. It's a movie that I really quite love, but I don't put it in the same sphere as a lot of others. Yeah, so I thought this film is equal to that one, in my opinion. I really liked how they updated certain aspects of it. I liked how this movie looked, especially its set. I loved the performances, the casting of Gaston, and the casting of Emma Watson as Belle, just pitch perfect. I'm also her dad was so well cast. Kevin Kline put him in everything. So I big like. Plus it has Gandalf and Obi-Wan. What's not to love? And Emma Thompson. Just love. I really liked Beauty and the Beast, if you can't tell. I thought it was equal to that original film. Along those same lines, in my number 5 spot, we have Aladdin. Aladdin is one that I also thought was better than, or at least equal to, the original Aladdin. The reframing of the film in Jasmine's perspective really, really worked for me. They gave her so much to do. She had such an interesting, compelling arc throughout the film. She's perfectly played by Naomi Scott, who just has a stunning voice, absolutely captivatingly beautiful, but just gives a great performance all the way through. I loved it. Aladdin wasn't able to match that, and I think a lot of people get hung up on the Will Smith of it all, but Will Smith, for what he does with the film, really, really works. He gives his own interpretation of the genie, and I think that is a much better idea than trying to have somebody approximate Robin Williams. You have somebody who is charismatic in their own unique way, and have them embody the genie. And I thought that worked. It was a smart move. I really like Aladdin. But again, I don't hold the original film in the same esteem that a lot of other people do. I think that movie, however, is one of the best looking Disney films, full stop, of all the animated films. And I don't think this one captures the beauty of visuals the way that animated film did. And the director, you could tell he's worked with big budgets before, but I don't think ever this scale, and he doesn't seem to match tempo with the movie all the way through, but still, I really loved Aladdin. In the number 4 spot, We have Christopher Robin. This one's often forgotten, but I love. I'm a big Ewan McGregor fan. I'm a big Haley Atwell fan. And I love the idea of taking the Hook kind of narrative of sequelizing your thing, but this one doesn't just remake it as Hook didn't remake it. The problem with Alice in Wonderland is it takes the Hook, which is sequelizing the thing that you are presenting as a first-time viewing experience, while also just remaking what that original thing was. This follows the Hook line of things, where it's a sequel to that, your established lore, assuming that people just in the public zeitgeist already are familiar enough with Pooh and Robin and all this stuff, and then provides a sequel to that. And I found this film absolutely moving. It just tugged on the heartstrings, and all the little bits of me that are filled with Pooh. That's a weird way to structure that sentence, but it's true. It really seemed to capture the essence that I needed this film to, and as an adult, I latched onto this. My kid, not so much. So this one's probably not one for the kiddos, but for the me's out there, absolutely love. And Ewan McGregor's the man, right? In the number 3 spot, we have Disney's Snow White. I think this movie is fantastic. I don't know why people are hurling shit at this. It's not fair. This movie is great. Rachel Zegler is phenomenal. This movie is good looking front to back. I like the sets. I like the way everything is lit. I like the staging and the choreography. All of that worked for me. I loved the updated music. This is one of my favorite films of 2025. Don't be surprised to see it on that list at the end of the year, because it has high marks. I really, really, really love it. And a lot of people don't, and that really disappoints me. Yes, Gal Gadot isn't that great in the film, but I can forgive that. There are elements of movies that I love that aren't that great, and I find a way to get by. And Snow White really works for me. In the number 2 spot, we have The Jungle Book. Jon Favreau, who made The Lion King, got that job from this movie. He remakes The Jungle Book in a way that is so convincing visually, you feel as if you're presented a reality. And he makes a film that is clearly better than the original animated film. I think nobody is going to question that. This movie is so incredibly well made. The action is tense, and if there's one criticism I would hurl at it, is it might be shot and photographed in a way that is too scary for the young kiddos that are likely to most want to see this. That said, it is a phenomenal movie, and you're going to have a great time with it. Check out The Jungle Book if you have not seen it. This is one of Jon Favreau's best movies, and that's saying something. This is the man who directed Elf, who wrote Swingers, who directed Iron Man. And if you like The Mandalorian, he did a whole lot of that too. But there you have it. That all leads me to my very first, my number 1 choice is Cinderella. Cinderella, I think, is a movie that's not only better than the original film, it is so well captured visually. I love all the set design. I love the makeup, the costuming. Lily James is so lovely in the role. I like how they updated the story while also keeping true to the essence that is Cinderella. And I think this is also how Snow White works very well. But Cinderella, Kenneth Branagh just brings a beautiful energy to it. And when he was asked why remake a classic, he gives the answer that I think is so important to acknowledge, and why I can justify liking a lot of the movies on this list. And the reason to remake some of these movies is he likened it to a song. He's like, take a song you really like. You don't just listen to it once. You listen to it over and over and over again. And at a certain point, you'd like to hear a different version of that song, a remix, if you will. And that is essentially what these are. It's not doing anything to take away what already was. It's acknowledging and tip of the hat to what came before, while also representing that to new audiences. And it's not as if just because Snow White's out there, nobody's ever going to watch Snow White, the original one, ever again. That's not true. That's one of my favorite movies, and I plan to, and have, since watching the remake of Snow White, revisited that old one. It reinstills that love for what came before and gives you an alternative option to view in the future. And that's what I like with Snow White. That's what I loved with Cinderella. And that's my ranking. So, let me know what your rank is. You don't have to do a full detailed one, but let me know what your top 5 are in the comment area down below. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.